When you first walked into Pewter City Gym back in 1996, Brock was just a guy who liked rocks. That's it. He had 2 Pokemon, used no strategy beyond hitting hard, and his biggest personality trait was that he kept his eyes closed all the time. But somewhere between then and now, gym leaders transformed from simple roadblocks into actual people, with lives, dreams, and Pokemon teams that could make competitive players sweat. The Kanto gym leaders were basic by design. Brock had his Geodude and Onix, Misty had her Staryu and Starmie, and they all pretty much did one thing: use their types' moves until they won or lost. Surge was the tough American soldier who liked electric types. Erica was the sleepy girl who liked flowers. Sabrina was creepy and psychic. That was about as deep as it got. They didn't have held items because those didn't exist yet. They didn't have abilities because those weren't a thing. They just sat in their gyms, waiting for trainers to show up. But even in this simplicity, there were hints of what was coming. Sabrina's gym had that teleporter puzzle that made kids want to throw their Game Boys. Giovanni wasn't just a gym leader, he was also the boss of Team Rocket, which blew young minds everywhere. These weren't just random trainers anymore, they were starting to be part of something bigger. Then came Johto, and suddenly gym leaders had lives outside their gyms. Jasmine wasn't at her gym when you first arrived because she was taking care of a sick Pokemon at the lighthouse. Think about that for a second. In Kanto, if a gym leader wasn't at their gym, the game would probably crash. But here was Jasmine, showing she cared more about helping a suffering Ampharos than standing around waiting for challengers. Whitney became infamous for all the wrong reasons. Her Miltank wasn't just strong, it was a nightmare that used rollout to crush dreams. Kids everywhere learned what real frustration felt like when that pink cow started rolling. Whitney would cry when she lost, refusing to give you the badge until you talked to her again. She wasn't graceful in defeat, and honestly, that made her more real than any gym leader before her. The Johto leaders also started using actual strategies. Morty's Gengar had Levitate, making it immune to ground moves. Price's Piloswine knew Earthquake, covering its weakness to fire types. These weren't just type specialists anymore, they were trainers who understood battle tactics. Hoenn changed the game completely. Norman wasn't just another gym leader, he was your dad. The game made you feel weird about beating up your father's Pokemon for a badge. His Slaking hit like a truck, but its Truant ability meant it could only attack every other turn. This was Game Freak teaching kids about risk versus reward in battle design. Wynona's Altaria had Dragon Dance and Earthquake. Read that again. The flying type gym leader's ace Pokemon could boost its stats and then hit you with a ground move. If you came in with your electric types thinking you were safe, you learned a harsh lesson about assuming gym leaders would stick to their type. But the real revolution was Tate and Liza, the first double battle gym. These psychic twins forced players to think about targeting, move spread, and protecting their Pokemon from multiple threats. Their Solrock and Lunatone weren't particularly strong individually, but together they covered each other's weaknesses and set up strategies that single battles hadn't prepared players for. Sinnoh's gym leaders were when things got personal. Rock and Byron weren't just Rock and Steel type users, they were father and son with a complicated relationship. Roark was trying to step out of his dad's shadow, while Byron was this weird guy who lived underground and polished rocks for fun. Their conflict felt real, even if it was resolved pretty quickly. Maylene was having a crisis of confidence when you met her. She'd just become a gym leader and didn't think she was strong enough. Her best friend was Candace, the ice gym leader, and they trained together at Snow Point Temple. These weren't just boss battles anymore. They were people with friendships and insecurities. Volkner was so bored with battling that he spent all his time renovating the gym instead. When you finally fought him, it was because you'd proven yourself interesting enough to snap him out of his depression. That's heavy stuff for a Pokemon game. Then came Unova, and the gym leaders became activists. When Team Plasma showed up talking about Pokemon liberation, the gym leaders didn't just sit in their gyms. They took action. Berg, Alessa, Clay, and the others actively fought against Team Plasma's plans. Drayden and Iris taught the player about the history of Unova and legendary dragons. These leaders were community pillars, not just challenge checkpoints. The sequel games went even further. Charon, your rival from the first games, had become the first gym leader. Roxy wasn't just a poison specialist, she was a bass guitarist in a punk band who battled on stage while her band played. Marlon was this laid-back swimmer who spoke in beach slang and genuinely didn't seem to care if he won or lost. Kalos made gym leaders feel like celebrities. Grant was a rock climber who built his gym into a climbing wall. Valerie was a fashion designer who moved from Johto to study Kalos fashion. Olympia was this mysterious psychic who spoke in haikus and could see the future. They all had these elaborate gyms that felt like entering their personal worlds. Galar took this concept and maximized it. Gym battles became massive sporting events with thousands of fans watching. Nessa wasn't just a water expert, she was a model whose matches were broadcast across the region. Raihan was a social media influencer who took selfies during battles. Piers was the only leader who refused to Dynamax, sticking to his principles even if it made him weaker. These weren't just trainers, they were celebrities dealing with fame while trying to be genuine battlers. But perhaps the biggest evolution came in Paldea. The gym leaders all had regular jobs. Larry was just a tired businessman who wanted to finish his gym duties so he could go back to his office job. He later showed up as an Elite Four member, still exhausted, still just trying to get through his day. Iona was a streaming sensation who turned her gym battles into content for her viewers. Kofu ran an auction house and would make challengers participate in bidding wars before battling. The gym tests became part of the real world. Katie made you find her special recipe ingredients. Brassius had you hunting Sunflora across town. Rhyme had you participating in rap battles with her gang. These weren't just puzzles anymore. They were the leaders sharing their actual lives and interests with challengers. What's remarkable is how we went from Brock, a guy whose only characteristic was likes rocks and has closed eyes, to Larry, a middle-aged salaryman who uses normal types because they're unexceptional, like his life. We went from leaders who existed only to test if you understood type advantages to leaders who had personal philosophies about battling. Piers believed Dynamaxing was a crutch. Raihan wanted to beat Leon so badly that he specialized in weather tactics just to counter him. Grusha was a former snowboarder dealing with a career-ending injury. The AI got smarter too. Modern gym leaders switch Pokémon, use status moves strategically, and have coverage for their weaknesses. They'll set up weather, use entry hazards, and employ actual competitive strategies. But more than that, they became real parts of their communities. They had friends among the other gym leaders. They had hobbies and dreams beyond standing in a building all day. The personal details make all the difference. Giovanni had Persian not because it was strong, but because he was a mob boss who appreciated elegance. Fantina spoke in broken English in the English games because she was from another region entirely. Skyla would fly injured Pokemon to hospitals in her cargo plane when she wasn't battling. These details weren't necessary for gameplay, but they made the Pokemon world feel lived in. Some gym leaders even had different teams depending on when you fought them. In rematches, Jasmine would use Skarmory and Magnezone, showing she'd been training and expanding beyond just Steelix. Blue took over the Viridian gym and didn't specialize in any type because of course the former champion would think type specialization was beneath him. The relationships between leaders grew too. Elisa and Skyla were best friends who'd visit each other's cities. Gordy and Melanie were mother and son who had such different philosophies about battling that they couldn't even work in the same game version. B trained in the mountains with Chuck from Johto, connecting generations and regions through shared fighting styles. Even their losses became meaningful. Iris would get frustrated when she lost because she was still young and learning. Lenora would compliment your strategy like a teacher proud of her student. Watson would laugh it off because he was just happy to have a good battle. These weren't just victory screens anymore, they were character moments. 9 generations took us from cardboard cutouts with single personality traits to complex characters with their own story arcs. Brock never left his gym except in the anime. Larry appears in 3 different locations across Paldea, just trying to make it through another workday. That evolution tells you everything about how Pokemon grew from a simple game about catching creatures to a world filled with actual people living actual lives. And honestly, beating Larry feels worse than beating Brock ever did, because at least Brock seemed happy to be there.